How's everyone?
Great.
When I say that I'm totally delighted to be here today, I really mean it. There are different reasons for it. One, because you are one of the first congregations in Atlanta after I retired that I came to visit at your old place on Shalford Road, One World Spiritual Center. The name attracted me to your center, One World Spiritual Center. And then beside that, I saw every one of you and Reverend Stephanie. Are you all in touch with her, by the way? She's on my Facebook page as well. And then getting to know so many of you, I came to the conclusion that you are the closest group to the Baha'i ideals and the Baha'i Faith. Did you know that? Did you know that?
Yay.
You are the closest, the very closest. There are many who are close, but you are the closest.
Thank you.
Because you believe in those ideals. Now, I have brought maybe 10, 12 books. I wish we had 24 hours, or at least 24 sessions, so I could tell you the basics of the Baha'i Faith, which is so close to what you believe, but it's a plan. Baha'u'lláh calls it the world order of Bahá'u'lláh. We all believe in peace, right? We all believe in unity. We all believe in cooperation and all the good stuff. But Baha'u'lláh says that this is a plan, that's not my plan, it's a plan that God has given me for this age. And as the messages was read, he calls it progressive revelations. All these religions are one and the same, but they're chapters of the same book. When you read the book, you just don't read one chapter and put it aside. You need to read the book, the introduction up to the conclusion, right? Read the whole thing. So Baha'u'lláh calls it progressive revelations, which means all these religions have come and all of them have the same basic message. The basic message of love and unity and forgiveness and all. All of those things are the same, right? Basically, not exactly the same. You know, what did Moses say? A tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye, right? And then what did Gandhi say? It makes the whole world blind, right? An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. But we don't object to what Moses said. We say that what he said, and it's about the teachings, the basic teaching. It's on the basic teachings. But it was suitable for that time, right? And then Jesus promoted more forgiveness, right? Forgive. Now that doesn't contradict what Moses said, but was more appropriate for what Jesus was trying to say. And then Muhammad came, and then he focused on what? On justice. Now we can't say retribution and forgiveness and justice, these are different things. And Baha'u'lláh said, there's a time for justice, there's a time for forgiveness, and we have to bring it all together. So in that sense, he says these are all chapters of the same book. They all complement one another. But the fact that they complement is very important. Now 200 years ago, what was his name? Voltaire. Voltaire said, I don't agree with you, but what? But I tolerate you. I tolerate what you said. Now this is still good, but not good enough. It's according to Baha'is, according to Baha'u'lláh, we need to study these faiths. We need to see how they complement one another, but we need to see the differences and why those differences are. And then we need to understand how they complement one another and come and read the last chapter too. Not that this would be the last chapter ever, but Baha'u'lláh says that God sends a messenger at least once every 1,000 years to guide us more and more to that final absolute unity. Now we all know that 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, there was no emphasis on race unity, for example. But now in a few weeks, we have a race unity that Baha'is promoted from 1957 and just saw it in your program. That is a crying need of our time, right? We need to work on it diligently. Now, true that all religions came for peace. But what did Jesus say? What I remember, that I did not come to bring peace, or something to that effect. But when it's something to the fact that when I return, then, or when the Prince of Peace comes, then he will bring you what I cannot tell you now. Or he says something to the fact that I have many things to tell you, right? Is that what Jesus said? But you can't bear them now. But when the Spirit of truth comes, he will lead you to all truth, right? So I'm here to share with you some of that, what all that truth was or is. That's 90% of it, or maybe 95% of it, you guys, that's the spirit of the age, have come to that conclusion. You could not hold a meeting like this 150 years ago, whether it was in Europe or Africa or USA, talking about one world spiritual center, oneness of mankind, that all religions are chapters of the same book. That's the spirit of this age. And we need to come to bring it to reality. And to bring it to reality, we have to have a plan. It's good that 15, 20, 30 of us get together and talk about these things. That's always the beginning. But please, now I'll charge you $5 for those books if you buy them. But part or all of it may go to your fund. But then if you read them, because we can't do it in 10, 20 minutes, if you read them and see that it is worth at least $50, or maybe it's priceless, then I have my card. Just send me a note that says this was worth $50. But aside from that, in order for us to talk about the basics of it, I have maybe not enough, but every two of you could probably share one of these, and we'll just share the basic of those ideas which starts with this beautiful song that Asha sang for us, that there's one God, there's one race, which is the human race. I guess all of us have come to that conclusion, right? There's one God, there is one race, which is the human race. And also, I think you have also come fairly to that conclusion, but Baha'u'lláh has reached 100% conclusion, that there's also one religion which has been revealed to man through time, progressively revealed. None of them have anything against one another. It is man who divines. That's along the reading that we had. And in that respect, actually, I remember one passage that Baha'u'lláh says it so concisely and so clearly in that regard. He says, this is the changeless faith of God. All of these religions. This is the changeless faith of God. Eternal in the past, eternal in the future. It's all the same thing, essentially. And then there's something else he says. He says, you deny one, you deny them all. You have come to this conclusion. Baha'is have come to that conclusion. But at least 90% of the world population have not come to that conclusion. We need to work on it. We need to work on it together. Awarely and understanding the urgency of it based on what we see today. Nationalism, racism, division, building walls, all of those kind of things is opposite of what God wants, right? What the spirit of this age is. And that's what we need to work on together. So, this essential, I gave you the card, no, I don't have that card, but let me borrow from you so I know what the essential things that Baha'u'lláh said. So, let's just go over this very briefly. And also, I gave you a gift, and that gift is what we see the essence of all religions are, right? Some of you will have it. It says that all religions, the purpose of it is unity, the purpose of it is love, the purpose of it is kindness. All of it is essentially, we know it all. We know it all. But then, what happens after that messenger leaves, after years have passed? Division and division and division. That is what we need to work on. You have understood it, we have understood it, but we need to see what this plan is. So we need, wherever we go, I think this would be a good guideline to have. To emphasize that there's only one God. To emphasize that all religions come from the same God. You know, when you see a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian who says, no, this is the only way, and everybody else goes to hell, we need to patiently and kindly and gradually talk to them that that's not so. And that reminds me, you know, we have an interfaith group, Reverend Melanie and Sydney sometimes come to that, and I went to invite a new minister from another church. I won't tell you what denomination. But I knew that person. He's a wonderful man, very kind, and he helps the needy and the poor much more than I do, and all that kind of stuff. But then I invited him to that group, and he says, no, I'm not coming. I said, why not? And he said, you will all go to hell. And I said, why? He says, we all go to hell. This is the only way, and that's the path. Then I was a little shocked, and I didn't know what to say. I told him, like, can we go to lunch? He said, hesitated. He said, okay. So we went to lunch, and one thing, I'm talking too much right now, but one thing that Bahá'u'lláh teaches us is that try to listen. So I went there, and it was over an hour of lunch, and I really listened. I seldom said a word. I was just very happy to see him and talk to him. And he said everything he wanted to say. And then at the end he says, I enjoyed our conversation. I hadn't said a word. I enjoyed our conversation. I have to pay for lunch. I let him pay for lunch. So that was a free lunch, but it was worth it. But ultimately we know that everybody is good. Everybody wants to do good. But we need to update ourselves in the fact that if there's one God, if there's one man, if there's one religion, which is gradually revealed, we need to patiently let people understand it. So now, in the coming few months, I've promised to Reverend Melanie that we are going to go church to church and invite them to our interfaith group. That's the beginning. Interfaith is the beginning. Ultimately, this oneness of mankind and total peace on earth. What did Jesus say? There will be peace on earth as it is in heaven. One day, one of these days. Bahá'u'lláh calls it the golden age of humanity. And he says the golden age of humanity is very close. We're very near to it. We need to do this stuff. All humanity is one family. Women and men, and basically all humans are equal. The family and its unity are very important. We all know that. Or most of us should know that. Then he focuses, for every one of these he has tablet over tablet, describing in detail what he really means. He says everyone must receive an education. Until 100 years ago, 150 years ago, we know there was very few people who had any education whatsoever. I don't know what percentage was in this country, but in many countries in Africa and Asia particularly, there was probably 1% who had any education whatsoever. That education, including spiritual education, is very important. Because when we're all educated, then we can sit down and talk. If not, then it's the beginning of what? Prejudice, superstition, and unfounded dogmas. So that becomes his next teaching, basically, that we need to work on prejudices, whether it's racial, religious, nationalistic, economic. These are all destructive. We need to work on them. And for that, he has a plan. By the way, Bahá'u'lláh, who from the moment he gave his mission, which was 1852, until he passed away, which was 1892, 40 years. Just like Jesus, he was persecuted in an unimaginable way. Sometimes just killing one person one time is easier than 40 years of persecution, exile, and banishment from one place to another. So there was a passage I was reading that just like Abraham, he was banished from place to place. Just like Moses, he supported his flock, making them understand what his message is. Like Jesus, he bore the persecution for 40 years. And so it goes on and on. And just like Buddha, he came from a noble family. So all of these prophets have many things which are in common, which are very much alike. Because my time is limited, let's go through this shortly. So, and some of these prejudices and superstitions, we read the passage from the Old Testament, or from the New Testament, or from Quran. Many of them, if you read them literally, you become dogmatic, I think. You become prejudiced, you become superstitious. And that's why, did you talk about, that one of these principles that you'll probably see down here, is the importance of harmony between science and religion. Many of those things that we read in old scriptures are parables or stories. When we die, whether it is Moses or Jesus, we can't physically come back. Sorry if I'm insulting anyone. Spiritually we do, but not physically. When we die, we die. The body of Jesus is just the body of you and I. Moses the same way, all of them. They are human beings who are spiritually motivated to have a spiritual message for us. So Bahá'u'lláh says that anything which science rejects, true science rejects, is not really true. It's a superstition. Or you're misreading something. That reminds me of another friend who came and knocked at the door and said that she was very disturbed, agitated. She was a true believer. But I said, what's the agitation for? And I said, do you know why we live to be only 90 years old these days? We used to be 900 years old. I said, why did that happen? What book did you read? He says, it's in the Bible. And she opened the book. It is in the Bible. She was right. It's in the Bible that Hud or some of these prophets lived to be 900 years old. And I tried to reason with her. That what it really means is the duration of that manifestation. Every religion has a duration of about 1,000 years. After that, it deteriorates. For example, Christianity, so you're all open-minded people, so I'll tell you that. So Christianity, for 1,000 years, it was one Christian faith, right? After 1,000 years, it was split between the East and the West. After another 300-400 years, it was split into 400 sects. And 1/3 of the European population was killed in the holy name of Jesus. So that's why Bahá'u'lláh says that not the fault of Jesus or Moses or Buddha, but man deteriorates it. And that's the time of renewal. We have to be careful about this idea of renewal to bring us all back together. Because that's the purpose of Jesus, that's the purpose of God. 5 more minutes. Not 5 more? So we can at least go through this list. So this idea of we need to fight these prejudices and superstitions through patience, through trying to convince people what the truth is. And of course, we all know that world peace is the crying need of our time, and for which he has this plan, which, by the way, in this 40 years that he was in exile, that was reason for it. Because in this 100 years that he was in jail, in exile, he wrote approximately 100 volumes of books. Now, if you have time, just session after session, we'll start reading these 100 volumes. These 100 volumes, he calls the Charter for World Peace. I have some of those books for you. And then he suggests, of course, an international parliament to uphold the universal peace, which means that the time for nationalism, the time for division has passed. There has to be an international parliament who coordinates the activities of humankind so that anytime there is some kind of division, they'll come and work it out rather than duke it out, fight it out, right? So for that, he has a plan that he discusses. Then the next one that we briefly mentioned is that religion must be in harmony with science. He says that if he says true religion agrees with science, if it doesn't agree with science, it is not really religion. It is superstition. So for that, he has lots of explanation. Then he explains in detail that we, which means every one of us as human beings, we must investigate truth for ourselves without preconceptions. As we know, most of us, 99% of us, are brainwashed by our parents, by our church, by our teachers. But one thing that he describes in detail is that this is the time of maturity of human beings. We have to search the truth for ourselves. And when we do that, then we all help in the point of bringing us humanity to the point of unity. So that is an essential. Actually, the first teaching of the Baha'i Faith is independent, unfettered search for truth. That's the only way when the world can become one world, one human being. Then, for that, he has also a vision of an international language to promote understanding among all people. Now, it is becoming probably English language that across the globe will speak. But 150 years ago when he gave this message, this wasn't so. But he's emphasizing the fact that every school, they should teach the native language, but also a second language that everyone across the globe, when we travel, when we see each other, can talk to one another. And that would also reduce or eliminate part of these prejudices and superstition against one another. We all know about this next one now, that a lot has to be done for it. It says our economic problems are linked to the spiritual problems. Now, there are so many things in this country that I like, but this one, I'll tell you privately, that this is the country where the distance between the very rich, who has billions and billions stacked on top of another, and the 40 million people who are either homeless or don't have enough to eat, is worse than many other countries, particularly all the European countries. I've been to so many countries, from Finland to Norway and Sweden and Denmark and all the rest. They have been able to deal with that problem, which means if you have so much, fine, but you have to give part of it. And of course, even back then, 100 years ago, the Baha'i Faith suggested the importance of progressive taxation. If you have more, you have to pay more. Until 1970s, that was the way in this country too. The marginal tax rate was, I think, 78%. Which means if you accumulated $5 billion, you have to give 78% of it for the sake of others. Now, they call it 1980s, what was it called? Trickle-down economics. Which means that this is good. Give more to the very rich, and they will spend it on all the rest. Not only that didn't happen, it made it worse. From 1980s until now, the situation of the extreme of wealth and poverty has become worse. So one of the solutions is very simple: progressive taxation. The other solution is workers' profit sharing. You know, if you and I work and they pay us $10 an hour, which doesn't even pay for rent these days, it's not fair. And then the CEO gets $50 million. I mean, that's nobody can really earn $50 million. That's just the way the system is. So this dealing with the extreme of wealth and poverty is another question. Ultimately then, Baha'u'lláh says that God's creation is essentially good, and we're all meant to be happy. So you and I are working for that thing. Now I think, and this is what I've been praying for from the moment I started driving until here, which was about an hour from my home. I prayed and prayed. This is a very special day today, because this day that Sydney, you invited me for, is the day of what we call Ascension of Baha'u'lláh. This is the day of his departure. This is the day that he passed away. So this day, that's May 28th, 1892, is the day of departure of Baha'u'lláh from this earth. And you invited me for this particular day. And then Reverend Melanie asked me to talk about teachings of Baha'u'lláh for peace, which is basically, essentially, what I shared with you. I have another gift also for you, but I may not have enough copies, so anyone who comes and give me another hug, I'll give you. The two books that I brought for you here. Now, from the 100 books of Baha'u'lláh, this is the shortest book of Baha'u'lláh. It's called The Hidden Words of Baha'u'lláh. So I'll give you, some of you, I'll give you a copy of that. For the others, I'll give you what you told me to believe in, which is one light, many lamps. All these religions have come, they're all chapters of the same book. I'll conclude with this passage from Baha'u'lláh. The purpose of religion, as revealed from the heaven of God's holy will, is to establish unity and concord amongst the people of the world. Make it not the cause of dissension and strife. The religion of God and His divine law are the most potent instruments and the surest of all means for the dawning of the light of unity amongst men. Baha'u'lláh. Thank you very much.
Thank you.